Thank you. And finally, to break down the process, it's easy to follow steps. So, okay. So this is here you can see, okay. So here you can see the breakdown for all the months. So for July, August, September, October, okay, no, this should be October, November, and December. So there's a mistake there. So in July, which is this month, what we aim to do in July, so now this is if you're intending to submit your applications by December or maybe early January. So this timeline is for you. But like I said earlier, you can adjust it based on when the deadline is for the program that you intend to apply to. So in July, which is this month, we are looking for schools to apply to. And then we are also starting to collect all the documents we need and to prepare for exams that we may need for the application, such as GRE or IELTS or TOEFL for the English test. Then in August, we take exams if necessary, write to professors, and so on. So we also have the steps for September, the steps for October, which is this one, November, and then December, which is when we also aim to submit the application. So it's like a 6-month timeline. I know it feels like, oh, why start an application 6 months earlier? But if you really want to submit a quality application, then starting on time is the best for you because you find out that when you rush your applications, you rush so many things. So starting your application process earlier, number one, gives you enough time to think about what kind of program you actually want to apply to. So you really have time to consider all the programs carefully and consider your choices. You know the details of each program because you've done your research and you know if that a certain program is what you really want to do. Secondly, it gives you enough time to reach out to people who you want to recommend you. Because if you're submitting in December and you reach out to a professor in like maybe that same December or even November, it might be like too short notice for them. And it might seem like they are not nice, but they are also busy with so many other things. So it's best if you reach out to the recommenders earlier. And when you start the application process earlier, it gives you the chance to do that. And thirdly, another third point why I think it's good to start early is because if you're applying for research-based programs, which I believe most of us here are applying for, it's good to have reached out to a professor in the department to let them know that you're interested in working in their research group as their student when you resume in the school if you're admitted. But if you start applying late, you don't really have the chance to do that because the application process has already started and then you don't allow enough time for correspondence. So yes, you might be able to send the email, but sometimes the professor might miss the email. Or if you had started applying early or if you had sent the email earlier, you could send a follow-up email that the professor would then see and then get back to you on. But if you start late, you don't really leave enough room for sharing emails back and forth. So I think those three reasons are why I would advise you to start applying early because yeah, it's really helpful. And then so for July, okay, like I said, for July, our aim is to find schools and programs to apply to. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. I'm going to try and break down how you can find a right school and right program to apply to. And yeah, I'll just try and discuss all of these points we can see under July here. So things to note about this, number one, looking online for people is a good step. So look online for people with similar backgrounds as yours, doing something similar to what you would like. And take note of their paths, reach out to them if possible. So for example, if I studied mathematics, and maybe I want to switch to data science. So I would want to check on LinkedIn for like, okay, who for people that studied mathematics or something similar to mathematics and then switch career path to data science. I'll take note of their school. Okay, which school are they did they go which school did they pursue their graduate studies at, and then take note of different things about them. Did they take any external courses and so on? Instead of trying to figure out everything on my own, I can just find people that are doing something similar to what I want and with a similar background as me, see what they did to get there, and then I can follow that path. it's much easier than trying to figure out everything on your own. And you can even reach out to them to ask them questions. So, for example, changing career path could be a big deal. So you might want to see which schools actually encourage that, which actually encourage you switching maybe from your undergraduate major to a different field for your graduate degree. So taking note of people that have done something similar, taking note of the school um, they attended and so on. Did they get funding? And asking them like questions or even just checking their profile to get the information you need would be a very good start. Then secondly, look for programs that align with your strengths. If you want to switch fields, then you can switch later on after you at least get some experience in that new field. So for example, if you could have like a very good grade in mathematics, right? So let's say I did my bachelor's degree in mathematics, but if I want to study maybe um what course could I be? Chemistry. It would almost look like I'm not good enough for graduate school because I'll probably get rejected in most of the programs that I applied to because my strength does not lie in chemistry. I didn't take any course in chemistry during my undergraduate study. It's not like it's impossible to switch, but I have to have been doing something that is consistent with that switch for some time before the graduate committee would even consider me serious. So if you put yourself in the shoes of the graduate committee, this I'm someone who has done my bachelor's degree in mathematics. I've never worked in a chemical company or in a chemical field or anything, and I suddenly just want to pursue my graduate program in chemistry. I would not want to like place my stakes on me myself. You wouldn't want to like take me into the program because you're going to fund me and you want to fund someone that at least has the potential of completing that program and doing well in it. So you have to also like sometimes just put yourself in the shoes of the admissions committee and ask if you would admit yourself if you were on that committee. So if you want to switch fields, it's not completely impossible to switch fields, but you have to like at least have enough, you have to be ready to show them in your essays, in your application that you actually have gotten some experience in that field that you want to switch to. So if I want to switch to chemistry, for example, maybe something I would do first would be to maybe first take a master's go for a master's degree in Nigeria first, which would be easier for me to get right because I'm going to pay, and it's also not an international admission. Maybe do that, get a master's degree in chemistry. I could also work in a company that does something related to the chemistry I want to do. Maybe it's pharmaceutical chemistry or something like that. I could maybe get some research or industry experience in that field, maybe work for a few years or a few months, maybe take some courses online, just something to show that I'm not going to arrive at the school I'm applying to with zero knowledge or little knowledge of chemistry. So if you want to switch fields, it's not impossible, but make sure that you actually have enough backing to do so. So it's better to apply where look for programs that that align with your strengths, and then you can try to switch later on if you feel like, especially when at the point of application you don't yet have enough knowledge of the new field that you're planning to switch to. And then thirdly, apply to a wide range of schools as much as possible. So sometimes we feel like, oh, I only want to go to top schools, and then you apply to maybe MIT, Harvard, and like maybe like only the schools in the top 10 or top 5 category. Yes, you may be really good and get into at least one of them. But sometimes something could go wrong and you don't get into them. But if you actually like spread out your application such that you apply to schools with high acceptance rates too, that maybe may not be in the top 10, of course, you should not apply to schools that will give you very, very low chances of getting jobs after you complete your program. You want to apply to schools that actually have good programs. So I'm not saying just apply to just any kind of schools. You actually want to make sure that they have a good program, especially in the field that you are interested in pursuing your studies in. So it's not just, oh, apply to just law school, just anywhere to get admission. No, but there are schools that actually have good programs that are not as difficult to get into as some other top schools. So you should also spread out your applications to cover those schools so that you don't end up feeling disappointed at the end of the application process because you haven't gotten into any school or you have gotten into some with no funding. So it's like not like you are not good enough, but because there are so many applicants that are vying for the same positions you're applying for. And if you focus your direction on only a certain group of schools, you actually lower your chances. So don't make the mistake of saying, oh, it's MIT I want to go, and it's only MIT I'm going to apply to, or it's Stanford or nothing. Apply to many schools. When the application process is over, if you get into Stanford or MIT, then you can go fine. And if you don't get into, you have something else to fall back to. And you can decide that, okay, even though you have the admission, you don't have to go. But it's better to have the admission and not go than to not have it at all. At least that's what I think. And then also look out for preparatory programs targeted at your demographic. One more thing I wanted to say about the previous point is that another advantage of going to a school that may not be so highly rated is that okay, maybe you wanted to go to a school like MIT, but you got a lower rated school. You can maybe go to the lower rated school and you can perform so well there and really prove yourself there. And then maybe afterwards you can then apply for a program at MIT. First, you're no longer an international student, and second, you have really given yourself a chance to actually learn without so much pressure. So even though people sometimes like look down on some schools and say that, oh, they are not as good as this other schools, and so on. The positive side of it is that every school has something that you can get from it, and you can put in your best and actually shine in that school, even though it's a smaller program than what you were actually intending to go for. And then you can decide to apply to whichever one you want to apply to later on after you have gained some experience and you have maybe gotten some awards or you have added something to improve your application. And then finally, I said look for preparatory programs targeted at your demographic. For mathematics, I know, and for physics, there's AIMS. AIMS is African Institute for Mathematical Sciences. So it's not like it's in Africa, but it's targeted towards Africans, and it's a really good program. So it's not a PhD program. And sometimes, even though you have an AIMS master's, if you maybe travel outside of Africa, it might not be recognized as a full master's program, but it's something that is very helpful because number one, you really gain a lot of knowledge on top of your bachelor's degree knowledge. And then secondly, it also opens you up to many opportunities because these programs like invite professors from many different institutions outside of Africa from different places that come to like give lectures, and from there you can get to meet people and you can get to ask them questions, and you could even get people to say, oh, I really like you, I want you to be my student in so and so university and so on. And from there you can move to where you actually are going to. Sometimes, even though in life, it's good to understand that even when you have a destination, it's okay to get to that destination through small, small, tiny steps. The thing you want to avoid is not moving at all. It's better to go to a program that is not like your top choice, but that will take you closer to where you actually want to go than to just stay at home and do nothing. So make sure that you look out for all these kinds of programs. The AIMS is a really good one, and well, it's only for mathematics, I'm sorry, but I'm sure if you look for in your field, you will find something. That's another thing, reason why the first point is helpful. Look for people with similar backgrounds as yours and see where they've gone, see the programs that they've been involved in, see the schools they've gone, and then that can give you insights to what possible programs you can also take. The International Center for Theoretical Physics diploma program is also a really good one. It's in Italy, but this I think there's the program for physics for life scientists and so on. And another advantage of these programs is they are fully funded. They cover everything. I think they cover even flight costs. For ICTP, I'm sure they cover even the flight costs. So they're actually targeted towards students from developing countries or low income countries, and they are really good programs. You get to learn a lot, you get a lot of exposure, and you are able to add that to your like qualifications to make your application stronger, because now you no longer have only a bachelor's, only a master's, but you have an additional degree, like something else that shows that you've learned a lot, and you will actually learn a lot. You will also feel more prepared to go for a PhD program um or another master's program if you so wish. So note these 4 points, please. I think they are very important for today's topic. And next, yeah, so I wanted to show a demo of how to look for schools. Yeah, I know, this is what I said. I know most of you will like be very familiar with this on how to do it, but I really want to break it down. So the first step is to Google the term that you are searching for. So that would vary depending on your program, but I will show you now. I'll actually share my screen, share my browser, and really let's see how to go about it. Then go to the program's website. Make sure that every information you get, this is very important, that you don't just get your information from Google or from just any third party website, because there are some websites that give information about programs. Make sure that you get the information about the program from that program's website itself, from the schools or university's website. Make sure that's exactly where you get all your information, not from anywhere else, because that's the most accurate information you can get. So navigate the page on that website. All the information you need should be there. If you need additional information, take note of the contact email. But most times you will not. Most things are very clearly stated there. But should you need in any case, you can, there's usually a contact email that you can take note of and ask. And very importantly, make sure you document all the information you collect, because you don't want to have to keep going and checking, because it takes a lot of time. So you want to have an Excel document, or not necessarily Excel, but just any document. It could be a Word document, or you could write it. Sometimes it's better to keep it like digital, but if writing is better for you, you can write it down. Take note of the schools and take note of the information you have gotten from the schools. And I'll show you like the key information I think you can get from the school. So this is an example of the document I'm talking about. So this is 2024 graduate program application. So this is an Excel spreadsheet. So I have, okay, the country, I have the school, which kind of program is it, master's or PhD, and then what's the program? So for example, I could actually be thinking of, okay, mathematics or operation research. You're not too far apart from each other. So I could give both of them a try in this application round. And then professors, so I also take note of professors or researchers that I want to work with, that I plan to contact, because it's always good have um to have contact of some professors, so you can at least have corresponded with a potential supervisor before you enter into the school. And also I think some during the decisions process, it's also an added advantage. And then this is very important, whether or not they have a fee waiver, because you don't want to have to pay application fees for all your schools. They are really expensive. They can be really expensive. So if you can get a fee waiver, you should like really take note of that when if they have fee waivers, and when, excuse me, the applications for the fee waivers open. And then is GRE required? GRE is graduate record examination, and it tests for, yeah, it's for people who want to go to graduate school. Sometimes it's required and sometimes it's not, but make sure you check the program's website to be sure to get the accurate information on whether or not you need it. And then is an English test required? Sometimes for some schools, a certificate of English proficiency is sufficient. Is or if you Some schools will say, oh, if you live in an English speaking country on this list, then you don't have to write IELTS or TOEFL, and they will show you the list. Nigeria is usually on such lists, but just confirm and take note and be sure. But some schools will say you still need to write either IELTS or TOEFL. Some will say you can take a Duolingo test, and that's fine. And then I think there are a couple of other English tests that some schools ask you to take. And of course, also take note of the application period. So when is it opening and when is it closing? And I think this should even be more detailed. So you should put the date, maybe, so you can be sure of the deadline date. So maybe October 10th to December 15th, and not just October to December like I have here. So now I'm going to share my browser screen and show you how I would look for school if I was wanting to do a master's degree. So let's say I'm considering schools in Germany and schools in the USA. So I'd come to Google and I would Google something like funded masters in mathematics in Germany. So I want it to be funded. I want a master's degree and I want it in Germany. Now on Google, I'm going to see many things. Like if I open this program, I'm going to see, if I open this, go through this link, I'm going to get a lot of information. Here, they will list many schools for me, but here, the only thing I'm Googling this for is just to get the names of the schools and to get the programs. I'm not going to take any other information from here because all the information I want is from where? It's from the program's website. Don't make the mistake of getting your information from third-party websites um or from Google. So when I Google this, I try to find something that looks nice and concrete. Sometimes it may take a bit of scrolling or adjusting your wordings. But for example, I see this university here, Mathematics Minster Full Grant Scholarship. This looks interesting and this looks concrete. So I make sure that I go to the program's website. So
But I
this
can't see your screen.
offering. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're
You
not
haven't
sharing your
been seeing
screen.
my screen.
Thank you.
Thanks. That means I probably was just sharing the old one. Thank you for letting me know. So I'll share my full screen now. Okay, now you can see it. Can you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I said I would Google something like this. So I funded masters in mathematics in Germany. So this is how I would start my search. I'm sure there are many different ways of doing it. And there are sometimes that you may have already been told a program, right? And then maybe someone has already told you about ICTP diploma program. In that case, all you have to do is just um, come to Google and search, okay, ICTP diploma program in mathematics, right? Or ICTP postgraduate diploma program. Whatever you do, make sure you go to the web page of that program, not anywhere else. Don't go to any third party, don't get your information from any third party website. So this is ICTP postgraduate diploma program. I would come here. So this is when you already, like maybe someone tells you, oh, apply to the ICTP postgraduate diploma program. So that way you have a program in mind and you just go directly to that website. It will have all the information you need about applying and so on. Who can apply? They break down everything for you. Nowadays, you don't even have to stress anyone asking questions. Everything is online. And if you're ready to do the work, you'll find all the information you want. But you really need to start early because it's a lot of work, as you will see. It's a lot of work to actually find first the program you want, to find those that have funding, to try to find those that have application fee waivers, because the fee is also something you want to consider, to reach out to professors and so on. It's a lot of work. So you want to actually start early. So, but now, if you actually don't have any program in mind and you're just generally looking for programs, this is what I would do. So if I were looking for a master's program in Germany, I would Google funded masters in mathematics Germany. And when I search for that, I see many things. There will be third-party websites and so on. So I can go to the third-party website, but what I want is just to get the names of the schools and the programs. So this looks like a nice one, the one with Universität Münster. I would select this. And then, yes. So, okay, for example, for this one, the call for applications for scholarship starting this has been closed, although this is for 2024/2025. So I think for Europe, this applications open a bit later. Applications close a bit later than um, the US. So for example, for this program, so now I'm on the program's website. The name of the school is Universität Münster, and this is mathematics full grant scholarship. And we can see that it is a master scholarship. So make sure you take note of all the information. And here they said that the call for applications has been closed. Oh, but this is for this to start this year. So that means for next year, the application has not even yet started. So we read about, take note of everything. So here it says who can apply. Students who have completed a first degree can apply, and you're only eligible. So you read everything, and everything that you want to be on the program's website. But don't get your information elsewhere. It talks about the funding. So yeah, I know that okay, this program is funded 934 euros per month, and they also pay a lump sum for travel expenses. So this will cover your travel. How to apply? While the admission process takes years, so you apply through this link. They require this letter of motivation, two letters of recommendation from university professor. They must be sent directly to us by email. So you need two letters of recommendation. Another thing to actually take note of in your Excel spreadsheet here. So I should add another column here. is okay. So I'll insert a column. I hope you can see my Excel sheet.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I should say number of, I want to add a column saying number of recommendations because some will require two, some will require three, so that you can know how many people you're reaching out to. So yeah, that's important. So you want to add that column and then take note of that. So here I can see the number of people I need to recommend me. The annual deadline is 31st of May. So if you want to resume like next year, I think the rate is here for that's 2025/2026 winter term. I think that's around next year, September or October. You need to apply by 31st of May next year. So schools in Europe, I noticed that they have a later deadline than schools in the US. For US, if you want to resume by September, October next year, you need to apply by December or January this year, most likely. So you have to take note of that, of the application date. Another thing about schools in Europe is that there are usually no application fees, but schools in US do have application fees. So you check how the application is done and then check the entire process. So that that's all. And then take note of the deadline and then start. That's like the first stage. So this is all like you need to do for this July. So for example, now I've checked what's the name of this program? Mathematics Moon Star Full Grant Scholarship. I'll go to my Excel sheet. The school is where? In Germany. And the name of the university is University of, and it is a master's program. Yes. And it's in mathematics. So for this program, there's some, so, okay. Another thing I wanted to say is that usually schools in Europe, I noticed, at least for mathematics program, they don't really have so much focus on reaching out to professors before you apply. But I noticed that for schools in US, it's actually very, in the US, it's very encouraged. But even for schools in Europe where it is not very encouraged, I think it's always an added advantage to reach out to professors to like really indicate your interest in their work and tell them you would like to apply in the program and possibly apply to the program, possibly write your thesis under them. So even though it's not like, even though they say it doesn't make any difference in the application, if you put yourself in the professor's shoes, if you've like actually interacted with a student before, you're more likely to consider to put more effort into reading the application, right? So I think it's always an added advantage. And I think if you are applying to schools, you should try to um do that, except if they specifically ask you not to. So maybe for schools where like there's not so much emphasis placed on it, you can maybe just write to one or two professors instead of as many as three. So maybe just one or reach out to one or two professors. But I think it's always helpful to try to find people doing that. So, okay, I'll show you how to find the professors, but from this web site, I'll take note of all the information I can find here because from this page I'm on, there are no professors. I can't really find information on the professors. The number of recommendations I need is two. GRE is not required. It's very not required for European schools. English test, I'm not sure, but there should be something about it. Yeah, but they didn't say anything about it. They just said patient. Oh, another thing to check for in programs that are actually outside, they're actually in like Europe, is whether the program will be in English because it could be in German. But I think this program is in English because the information is in English. But everything you need to check is all here. Okay. So now if you see this link where I am here, where my cursor is, there's like detailed information about the MSc Mathematics Minister program. So I think I'll be able to see, yeah, so you can see more details. So now this is not just telling you about the application fee, about the application. This is actually telling you about the program itself. Like what exactly, and it's also good to know about the program because you don't want to enter a program and be like, oh no, this is not what I asked for, or the focus is completely different from what you would be. Maybe you want to focus more on applied math, but the program's focus is on real mathematics and they have very few applied math lecturers. So it's also good while you're looking for schools to not just check the application process, but to take time to check what the program itself is like. So degree, Master of Sciences, start of studies, October or April. Standard period is 2 years, language is English, and fees, no tuition fee, but you pay 300 euros per semester. But you know you have a scholarship. You have from here, scholarship pays you 934 euros per month, and they cover your travel expenses, one off. So here, the application portal, well, here they're saying it's open, but in the other page they were saying it's closed. But I'm sure if you go there, you will see like everything that is needed. And then, okay, the requirements here, we can see that you need B2 English skills. I'm not sure they will require you to prove that, but I'm sure if you look at the website, like in detail, you'll find everything you need. And so this is the link to apply. Let me see if we'll get information about, okay, I know English. Okay, so you have to select like your nationality and continue with the application process. So just make sure you search through the website, like you actually score the website in for all the details you need. So try and make sure that this your table is filled for all the schools. That means that because that would mean that you actually have the full application. So this one closes, I think it closes May 30. I'm not sure when it opens, but it closes May 30 for resumption next year and so on. English test, I'm not so sure, so I'll take some extra time to check that. So on. So to find professors or researchers, what I would do is to I would just Google usually if I want to find professors in a school, I would say so the school is University of Met. But I want to find researchers in that area, in that school. So I'm not sure how these universities will have their own. But this is the faculty, so I want to find people. Yeah, sometimes it can be difficult. For some schools, US schools especially, it can be really easy to find them. But sometimes for um, non-US schools, it can be a lot of work to try to find professors. But you just, if you come to the program's website and you come to tab, yeah, usually there's something. So for example, here is a lot of work because they haven't really um listed them like they haven't told you what they are working on. So you have to go individually to their page and then check what okay now for example, this doesn't even have like an English translation. That's the thing with applying to like non-English speaking institutions, even though your program is in English, you have to navigate a lot of things like that may not be in English. Or if you check this man's profile, someone is unmuted. Let me see. I muted everybody, sorry. But if you need to say something, please unmute. Thank you. So this is Professor Arthur Bartel's website. He's a professor at the Institute of Mathematics, and here I can see his information. So he deals with spaces and operators and topology. If that's something I'm interested in, or I would think I would like to do, I'll take note of his name, Dr. Arthur Bartels, and then I'll take note of his name, come back to my Excel sheet here, and add it to the list of professors for this school. This one, text. Yep. And then take note of this email address. This email. They usually their email address is usually there. So you just have to search here. This is it. So this is his email address. I copy it and I paste it. Yeah. So it's spelled out. So the artist you can see they wrote, so this is sometimes they write it like this, especially German website. I don't know why. But this art is like the regular art. So I will place it here so I understand it. And then they spell out everything. So instead of putting a dot, they spell out the dot. But I just replace it with a dot and then dot de. Then I put the dot. So this is one professor. I can try to find maybe one more for schools in Europe. I would not really put too much emphasis on this, but I'll try to find at least one or two. So that's like for a school in Europe. And then let's say I wanted to apply to a school in the US. So in the US, usually most of their master's and PhD programs are, no, not master's and PhD programs. Most of their PhD programs are funded. So I think there's less funding for master's program generally. So if you really want to find a funding for a master's program, you have to do extra work because there are, but you have to look for them more because there are fewer, right? So you have to be ready to really put in the work. I know that there are. I know people who have gotten fully funded master's programs, but you have to do more work because there's less availability. They have less availability. So if I wanted to find schools in the US, I would Google something like schools with high acceptance rates in the USA. If it's a big school, they will definitely have the program you want to do. So I would just like try and find a list of many schools. Maybe I could have some other schools in mind, right? But like I said, you should mix your school. So don't just say, oh, I'm only applying to Harvard or I'm only applying to Oxford University, etc. Try to apply to a wide range of schools, and then later on you can choose when you get accepted. So I see here Kansas State University. So I would open another tab and then come and search for Kansas State. Okay, I already searched for it. So I want to do a PhD in mathematics, Kansas State University math PhD application. So I open this website. Like I'll see different links. Whatever you do, make sure that you go to the program's website itself, not a third-party website, because that's where you can get the best information. So I come here and I could open any one of them. It should be clear most likely. So this is information, all the information you need. Admission can be found. Okay, so details on, so now there are two different things. Remember, there's information about the admission process or the application process, and there's also information about the program itself. So this is the admission side. I will get information here to read everything, just similar to what we've done for the Germany one, because all the information you need to be there. The requirements you need, what you need. Have you done 21 hours of semester work beyond calculus level to know if you are eligible and so on? You need to have a B average in all of this in the last 2 years. Then you are required, if your primary language is not English, you need to take an English test. Financial support, some departmental support is available, which is very important. But usually for PhD programs, there's support. But for master's program, you have to really make sure that there is some form of support because many times there may not be. So you have to like take extra care in ensuring that the programs that you are finding actually have funding. And then maybe I should add one more column to my Excel sheet here and say funding. But I don't even think that should be a question because if there's no funding, most likely like it's probably going to be so expensive and you probably don't want to consider schools that have no funding. But maybe for the funding, you want to check, okay, maybe if it's a teaching, okay, one important one reason why it could be useful to have this column is that the funding could be in the form of a teaching assistantship where you teach undergraduate students and get paid, or in form of a research assistantship where you do research with a professor in the faculty and get paid. Or it could be a scholarship. Like, for example, remember for this University of Munster that we checked, this one, it was a scholarship. So they just pay you, you're not working, they pay you every month. Usually scholarships are less than what you get from teaching or research assistantships because you are not working, they just pay you a stipend every month. But they are all usually enough to sustain you. You never be like so rich of them, but you'll be able to feed and to meet your basic expenses. So when I was in ICTP and in BMS, I was on scholarships. So they paid me every month. I wasn't working. Although for some time in BMS, I got a job as a research assistant. I made some more money. But now at Tufts University, I will be a teaching or a research assistant. And then, so I'll actually be working and I'll be paid more. But I'm working, so I deserve to be paid more. So you might want to take note of that if it's a teaching assistantship, a research assistantship, or a scholarship. So that's all. And then you add Kansas State University to your list in the USA. And The same way you found a professor for the Germany school. So if I wanted to find a professor for Kansas State University, I would Google. Now I would want to go directly to the maths department because that's where I will see information about what they are. So, okay, I actually found what I wanted. No, not this one. This one. Kansas State University Math Department. Yeah, so for US, it's usually much, for US schools, it's much clearer. They like really say everything clear. So I can come to, can either go to research. If I go to research, I usually, some way or the other, you should find the faculty. But now I'm not finding them. So maybe I check academics. No, about, okay, about. So if I check about, see, yeah, now. So I can check faculty and staff resources. Or I think I can check people. Yeah, so if I check people, I can see all the, I can go to faculty, and then I see, yeah, this is what I mean. So you see that in this case, it's very easy to see the professors and see what they do. So Alali, Bachim, it does make use of deformable solids. If I'm interested in that, I can click his name, see more about him, maybe see how he looks, um, copy his name, copy his email address, and paste it in my list so that later on, when I want to reach out to him, I will. But we're not really focusing on like reaching out to professors now. Where this is just our aim now for now is to get this Excel table or our notebooks or our Word documents populated with information about the schools we want to apply to. So I'll go back to my spreadsheets now and come from the beginning. Let's get ready. So yeah, so by next section, next session, research for schools and programs you're interested in. So all of this should be ready, please, so that we can actually be in line, especially if you want to apply to the US, to the USA, like to meet up with this December deadline. Research for schools and programs you are interested in. Have a document ready with detailed information on the schools and programs. And then I recommend a list of about 20, even though I think can aim to apply to about 10. But like I said, it's very flexible depending on you. If you want to apply to more, it's fine. If you want to apply to less, it's fine. But I think 10 is a good number because you get to have options and you actually get to apply to a wide range like you want. And also need to know what documents you need and exams you need to take. For example, in the two programs we have checked, I don't think like GRE is required for them, but for some schools, you will see that GRE is required. So take note of that. So what documents you need and what exams you need to take for next year. All you have to do is to go to the program's website and search for it. And don't try to wait until like maybe it's 1 week before August before you do it because you find out that you don't have enough time. It's a lot of work. Like this is just for 2 schools we have done, and it has taken up a lot of time already. And we haven't even gotten all the information. So imagine you are trying to find for 20 schools and you really want to do a detailed work to make sure the program is what you want. It take a lot of time. So you don't want to rush it. So please try and start early. And by next session, please make sure you have all of these things ready so that we can just briefly do a recap and then move on to what to do for August. Yeah, I think that's all. So that's all for, I think this is the last slide. Yeah, thank you so much for joining this session. So now I'll take questions if there are any. So, okay, someone wants the slides. Thank you for letting me know I couldn't see my screen. So I'm attending to the chat now to see if there are any questions. Okay, most of my experience is on sampling techniques, starting from my thesis till now, but okay, well, I don't really know what you mean by sampling technique, but guess you're, in general, like what you did is different from what multiple persons are doing now. I think if you really want to do sampling techniques, then you might search more. It might take a lot of work, but I think you will find someone who is doing what you want. If not, then you have to actually find a way to switch. So maybe get some other experience. The fact that you have not sampling techniques does not mean that it's only sampling techniques you can do. So you can try and get some experience doing something else, maybe working for a short time somewhere, or taking a course, or maybe even just sometimes reading papers of some professors and reviewing it, showing a review of what you've done. I think we'll discuss more of this later in the next in subsequent sessions. But it's not impossible. So you have two choices. Either you look really hard for someone doing sampling techniques like you're familiar with, or you switch. And if you want to switch, you want to have like some background in the field that you want to switch to also. But we'll try and cover this more in like subsequent sessions. For this session, you just actually find schools and programs you want to apply to or intend to apply to. And Elizabeth asks, in selecting professors, do they have to be doing research in exactly what you're interested in? Yeah, I think to some extent it's good that um they're doing something you're interested in because you actually want to show them that you know about what they are doing. So if you're not interested in it, I think it will show. So it should be something like they're like interested in. For example, I can never write to a professor doing geometry because I hardly know I know so little about geometry. So it's very obvious I don't know what I'm talking about. And when we are sending emails to professor, like we'll talk about later on, we're not just sending generic emails that are just like, well, that like we just send to many people that it will be so obvious that we actually did not put so much thought into the emails. We actually want to send very well constructed emails that show that we have put some effort into reading what they actually do. We actually really know about what they are doing. So to some extent, it's important that you are interested in what they do. Although later on you may eventually not work with that professor. It's not like it's a binding agreement. You can change your mind when you respond, be interested in something else. But just to make the professor have like an interest in you, it's good that you also have an interest in what the person is doing. And yeah, I know the recommender stuff. That's like, in fact, I made a poll here. I don't know. Let me try and find it. I just wanted to do something engaging. Okay, yeah, I found it. Yeah, so what part of it would be nice if you could answer the poll. So what part of the application process deters you the most? For me, it's actually asking for recommendations. That's why, left to me, I don't mind applying to about 20 schools if it's just writing the essays. But actually asking the recommenders for letters could be a lot. But if you just have to do it because I don't know. So I feel like 10 schools is fair. 10 schools is quite fair. I don't know why they ask for so many recommendations, but I don't know. I think that's like just something that you just have to know that you just know you have to do it and get on with it. But it's not actually very nice asking recommenders for so many letters of recommendation. That's why I say 10 schools. Left to me, I feel like 20 schools is even better because you have many choices, right? I don't mind writing 60 20 or 40 essays, but having to ask recommenders for recommendations 20 times is a lot of work. It's like I find it very daunting. And do I have a format that will help in preparing a good research proposal? Okay, I'll take note of this. Maybe I will discuss this with the essays. For me, I did not have to write a research proposal, but if for your program you need to write a research proposal, then I'll talk about it during the same time. Because I plan to share a format for writing essays. So I will try and write a format for a research proposal to around that time. And would the slides be available after the meeting? Yes, I'll try and make the slides. I'm not sure. My intellectual property. I'm not yet sure if I'll share the slides after the meeting, but I will see. And you can see my screen. Thank you for letting me know. Slides, I don't know if I'll send the slides. With the Excel sheet we made available after the meeting. Okay, maybe I think I can share the Excel sheet. Yes, I'll share that. And I would appreciate the link to the recorded session sent. Okay. What if you don't find an advisor with similar interests in the school you selected? But one of the things you should consider in the school is actually that you have an advisor with similar interests. Because if there's no advisor with similar interests, then how would you do what you actually want to do? So it's very important that you at least find at least one person that does something you like that you would be interested in. Because the main point of doing a PhD program is the research. And if you might as well do something that you enjoy or are interested in, right? So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Is it compulsory to stamp all recommendation letters? I don't know how. I don't think they ask to stamp it nowadays. Nowadays, they usually just send a private link to your recommenders. You fill in your recommenders email, then they send a private link, and um they fill it and they fill the form online, and that's all. Yeah, I don't think they do the physical process anymore. About the exams, I'm not sure. I think if you check online is the best. I did not write any of them, so I don't really have the best information. But if the school says they don't have any preference, then you can believe the school that no, they don't have any preference. But if the school says GRE, then it's GRE. So thank you so much for your time. So for the next session, just try and make sure you have all of those things available. Like you should have researched the school and make sure you have your Excel sheet or your document with all the information. And please make sure that you take your time, because if you take your time to actually do your research now, the rest of the application process will be easier because you have everything outlined. You know, you have like good information about the schools. So we'll be meeting next in the beginning of August. I will send for people who have already registered for July's session, I'll send the link to register for August session and then the link for August for the Zoom meeting for August session, so that I actually can keep a record of people who have attended. Thank you so much for joining. I hope it was blessed. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you for. Yes, I should be able to send the
Thank you
Excel
very much.
by email. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for attending. I really enjoyed my time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Bye.